But I think people can choose to be not ordinary. They can choose to not necessarily conform to the conventions that were taught to them by their parents. So yes, I think it's possible for ordinary people to choose to be extraordinary.
Look at the person crying over here and a bunch of business experts advising him on how to keep his company alive. Who could have imagined that one day this boy would become a revolutionary entrepreneur, transforming the world's view of space exploration? But this story doesn't begin with rockets or global fame. It begins with a quiet, nerdy kid growing up during the turbulent times in South Africa. A boy who was bullied at school. A boy who at just 12 years old built his first video game. A boy who dreamed beyond the earth, beyond the sky. This is the story of that boy. This is the story of Elon Musk. This isn't just another Elon Musk story. Based on Ashley Vance's book and rare interviews with Elon Musk and his family, this is the untold journey of the man determined to change humanity's future. Pretoria, South Africa, 1971. Elon was born and brought up during the violent days of South Africa. White and black people clashed, as did blacks of different tribes. He was the firstborn of Maya and Errol, two individuals who grew up in the same neighborhood and spent time with each other as loving couples during their university days. Elon's father was in the engineering business and he was good at it. Their family owned one of the biggest houses in Pretoria. Elon's mother May is from an amazing adventurous family. Elon's grandparents Joshua and Wayne Haldeman were adventurous pilots who spent years finding the lost city in the desert. They spent most of their lives on exploration. He was the first person to fly from Africa to Australia.
My grandfather moved with all his kids and my mom and everyone to South Africa because he wanted to use it as a base of exploration. So he had this little plane that he liked to fly all over the place, and he flew it all through Africa and Asia. And he was the first person to fly from South Africa to Australia. And he did this in a plane with no electronic instruments.
I think all of our family members are entrepreneurs in some form, but I guess I'd probably give credit to our grandfather, who was one of the explorers who explored the random parts of Africa for about 20 to 30 years before he died in the plane that he used for exploring. Inspired my mother's generation and my father's generation and now us.
So because of having such adventurous parents, Maya and her siblings left with the impression that nothing is impossible. And we can see that same hunger for exploration in Elon Musk, solving world's problems, building something new, something different, doing what no one else was ready to do even when everyone called him crazy. Elon Musk is always determined to follow his dreams and goals, no matter what people think of him. After giving birth to Elon in 1971, Maya gave birth to two more children, Kimbal in 1972 and Tosca in 1974. These kids grew up listening to the adventurous stories of their grandfather and witnessing the violence going on in South Africa. Elon was 5 years old in 1976 during the Soweto uprising that started with a peaceful march of black students and took a violent turn. Many died at the hands of police. Elon and his brother admit to witnessing some rough stuff themselves while growing up. Throughout his childhood, Elon wanted to escape the place where he lived and wanted to go to a place where his dreams could flourish. Elon's childhood was marked by isolation, endless daydreaming, and a deep love for books. He often wandered through the vast landscapes of his own imagination, more comfortable in the world of imaginary ideas than the world around him. In the biography of Musk by Ashley Vance, Elon's mother stated, "He goes into his brain and then you just see he's in another world. He still does that. Now I just leave him be because I know he's designing a new rocket or something." As a kid, Elon Musk was always a little different. While other children were outside playing, Elon spent most of his time in libraries. He loved reading, starting with fiction, then moving on to comics and non-fiction. By the time he was just 10 years old, he had finished every book in his school and neighborhood libraries. And when he ran out of books, he started reading the Encyclopedia Britannica. Just for fun, he spent 10 hours a day reading, particularly science fiction novels. Elon was especially drawn to stories about space and the future. Books like The Lord of the Rings, The Moon is a Harsh Mistress, Isaac Asimov's Foundation series, and his favorite of all, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. These books sparked his imagination. They planted the first seeds of the big ideas he would one day chase, like building rockets, sending people to Mars, generating clean energy, and helping humans become a multi-planetary species. Some say Elon took childhood fantasies too seriously. Okay, but the best part is that at the same time, he took a scientific and logical approach to achieve the desired outcomes. He worked hard to turn imagination into a reality. He is a rare combination of imagination, logic, and science. By mixing these three, he is building and inventing new technology that an ordinary person could not even imagine. Now, why would someone bully such a smart kid? Psychological research indicates that reading fiction improves brain connectivity and function. Elon's love for reading had a big impact on how his mind developed. From a very young age, his brain worked much faster than most kids. He started thinking logically and could spot flaws in other people's reasoning. And when he did, he tried to correct them because he genuinely thought that people would appreciate it. But of course, that's not how most people react. Nobody likes being told they are wrong, especially by a little kid. Other children started to see Elon as strange. They stopped playing with him, and over time he became more and more isolated. Some kids even bullied him. On top of all that, for some reason, the Musk family started falling apart. Errol and Mae filed for divorce. After the divorce, Elon and his brother Kimbal started living with their father. Errol's side of the family has deep South African roots. His father, Walter Henry James, was an army sergeant. Therefore, he inherited disciplinary traits from his father. According to Elon and his family, Elon Musk is the most unpleasant man to live with. So why did Elon choose to live with his father? There are many statements about this decision. Elon's wife Justine Musk says, "I don't think he was particularly close with either of his parents. Living with father meant a comfortable life. He was financially well off and made sure Elon had access to things like computers, gadgets, and plenty of books. For a curious mind like Elon's, it was the perfect environment to explore and learn. But despite the material comforts, life at home wasn't easy. Elon and his brother had a complicated and often difficult relationship with their father. When the author of Elon's biography, Ashley Vance, asked Elon about his father, he said, "It would certainly be accurate to say that I did not have a good childhood. It was not absent of good, but it was not a happy childhood. It was like misery. My father is good at making life miserable, that's for sure. He can take any situation no matter how good it is and make it bad. He is not a happy man. I don't know how someone becomes like that." In the book, there is this one story about Elon and his father caught my attention. While growing up, Elon had always been fascinated by Silicon Valley. One day, Elon opened up to his dad about his intention to live in America. His father, however, did not like his idea of spending life in America and decided to teach him a lesson. He gave all the housekeepers a holiday and made Elon do all the household chores to make him understand what it is like to live in USA. His father tried hard to prove his point. Still, throughout his childhood, Elon always imagined his life in Silicon Valley, where one day he would establish himself as a revolutionary business person.
I mean, I should say that, when I was a kid, I didn't really have any grand designs. I mean, the reason I started programming computers was because I like computer games, and I play lots of computer games, and I learned that if I wrote software and sold it, then I could get more money and buy better computers. So it wasn't really, with some grand vision or anything. When I was growing up, I'd read lots of books. They were very often set in the United States, and it seemed like a lot of new technology was being developed in the United States. So I thought, okay, I really want to work on new technology, so I want to get to Silicon Valley. When I was growing up, Silicon Valley seemed like some sort of mythical place, like Mount Olympus or something. I tried at first to convince my parents to move to the US, but neither of them would move. They were divorced.
Entrepreneurship qualities in Elon and his brother can be traced back to their school days. They were not ordinary teenagers who liked talking about movies and girls. They both had productive conversations with each other on a diverse range of topics, including banking, the space industry, and so on. When the author interviewed one of their schoolmates, Mr. Wood, he opened up about an incident while remembering their school days. One day during a school break, Elon and his brother Kimbal were deep in conversation when Mr. Wood overheard them and asked what they were talking about. Here is what they answered: whether branch banking was still necessary and if the future of banking would be paperless. Yes, those were the kinds of conversations Elon and his brother had as kids. And the result of these early forward-thinking discussions? Years later, Elon helped create PayPal, one of the first major companies to introduce paperless online money transfers to the financial world. Right now, let's stay focused on the early formative years where the roots of Elon's mindset were still taking shape. Even in school, Elon was already thinking about big problems. During science debates, he strongly supported solar power over fossil fuels, an idea that would later become the foundation for companies like Tesla and SolarCity. But being smart and outspoken came at a price. Elon was often bullied for being different. In one brutal incident, a group of boys beat him so badly that he blacked out and had to stay home for a week. Elon never cared about his grades. He thinks that if you are not interested in a particular subject, then studying that subject is a waste of time. In addition, he does not give much importance to college degrees either.
No need even to have a college degree at all, or even high school. If somebody graduated from a great university, that may be an indication that they will be capable of great things, but it's not necessarily the case. If you look at, say, people like Bill Gates or Larry Ellison, Steve Jobs, these guys didn't graduate from college.
When Elon was 10 years old, he visited Santon City Mall in Johannesburg, and there he saw a computer for the first time. While Elon's father thought that these computers would only be used for gaming and would not be useful for real engineering, 10-year-old Elon was super excited about them. He somehow convinced his father to purchase that computer for him. The Commodore VIC-20 was his first computer in the 1980s.
Commodore VIC-20. Unlike games, it has a real computer keyboard. With the Commodore VIC-20, the whole family can learn computing at home.
It used to come with 5 kilobytes of memory and a workbook on the basics of programming languages. It was supposed to take 6 months to go through all the lessons mentioned in that workbook. However, Elon stayed up for 3 days without any sleep and finished the entire thing. In the 1984, at the age of 12, he designed the source code for a video game called Blaster. A few local publications published a story about this. It was the first time Elon was introduced to the public. In this game, you have to destroy an alien space freighter that is carrying hydrogen beams and status beam machines. These were the words of a 12-year-old Elon while describing the theme of his game. Look at the creativity in his writing. Anyone can notice that this kid has read lots and lots of books. As a kid, he took science fiction and fantasies too seriously. He himself stated in his biography, "I wanted to write something like Lord of the Rings." God, can you imagine Elon Musk as a sci-fi author? Here is an interesting para from his biography. By the middle of his teenage years, Elon had blended fantasy and reality to the point that they were hard to separate in his mind. Musk came to see man's fate in the universe as a personal obligation. If that meant pursuing a cleaner energy technology or building spaceships to extend the human species' reach, then so be it. Musk would find a way to make these things happen. He told the author, "Maybe I read too many comics as a kid. In the comics, it always seems like they are trying to save the world. It seemed like one should try to make the world a better place because the inverse makes no sense." Elon and his cousins once tried to open a video arcade without telling their parents, but couldn't get through the legal process as it needed someone above 18 years of age with them. And so Elon, Kimbal and his cousins had to wait some more years to start their own businesses. He spent the later stages of high school at Pretoria Boys High School. His high school friend Gideon Fury said, "Honestly, there were just no signs that Elon was going to be a billionaire." In high school, Elon paid more attention to subjects that he genuinely liked or felt interested in. He studied remaining subjects just to score passing marks. He used to say, "I would rather play video games, read books and write software codes than try and get an A grade if there is no point in getting an A." He always believed in thinking and making decisions for himself. At the age of 17, the moment Elon had dreamed of his entire childhood had finally arrived. He was leaving South Africa behind, all set and ready to begin a new chapter. But before he could reach his dream destination, America, Elon would have to face some unexpected challenges.
Now is the time to take risk. You don't have kids. As you get older, your obligations increase. And once you have a family, you start taking risks not just for yourself, but for your family as well. It gets much harder. So I would encourage you to take risks now. Do something bold. You won't regret it.
Chapter 2. Birth of the Internet. 1994 was a momentous year for the tech industry. It was the year World Wide Web was born, aka the Internet. That year, the web became accessible to the public because of the rise of web directories like Yahoo and tools like the Netscape web browser. That same year, Elon Musk just had completed an internship at Pinnacle Research Center, where he learned how ultracapacitors can be used as a revolutionary fuel source in electric and hybrid vehicles. He later even joined Stanford to pursue a doctorate in material science and physics. As the story goes, he dropped out of Stanford just 2 days after joining, as the internet industry looked promising. Elon Musk and his brother realized that the internet is going to be the next big thing and decided to create something on the web. In the beginning, they wanted to build an online network of doctors, but it would take doctors to be interested in joining the internet and uploading their information online. It was 1994, no one liked uploading their personal information on the internet. Soon they both shifted their strategy, something no one else was really thinking about at the time. They realized that small local businesses needed to be online. Elon believed that people should be able to search for nearby restaurants, shops or services on the net, just like we do today. But in 1995, that idea was way ahead of its time. So the Musk brothers formed a company, Global Link Information Network, and later renamed it as Zip2. The idea was good, but the biggest obstacle was making small business owners understand the importance of getting on the internet. There were only a few local business owners in 1995 who understood the internet thing. They did not really see any value in creating a website for their businesses and getting listed on the online listings. So Elon and Kimbal hit the streets. They went door to door talking to restaurant owners, clothing shops and hairdressers, trying to convince them that the internet wasn't just a trend, it was the future. This is how Elon tried to explain his concept to people. He used to say, everyone deserved the right to know the location of their closest pizza parlor and the turn-by-turn directions to get there. This idea may seem very ordinary today because now everyone uses Google Maps, but back then in 1995 it was something new.
In 95, it wasn't at all clear that the internet was going to be a big commercial thing. In fact, most of the venture capitalists that I talked to hadn't even heard of the internet, which sounds bizarre.
Elon's father gave them $28,000 to set things up. They rented an office in Palo Alto. Elon was a self-taught coder, therefore he did all the coding behind the service himself. Immediately after starting the service, Elon struck an impressive deal with Navteq, a company that spent millions of dollars on creating digital maps. Navteq provided maps to Elon's Zip2 for free. Zip2 may have been a go-go internet enterprise, but it required old-fashioned door-to-door salesmanship to make people understand the benefits of getting their business online, and in addition making them pay for it. Therefore, both brothers organized a team and had them go door-to-door to collect information about businesses. Then Zip2 introduced premium listings or sponsorships. Whoever pays gets on top of the list of their directory. Every day, sales team returned back to the office empty-handed, but Elon did not give up. Elon rarely left the office. He was completely focused, coding day and night, constantly adding new features to improve the service. His dedication was intense, almost obsessive, but it paid off. His non-stop work ethic inspired the whole team and kept morale high at the office. Even some investors who visited Zip2 were impressed by the slavish devotion of Elon Musk. In 1996, the venture capital firm Moore David Dow Ventures invested $3 million in Zip2 by looking at their impressive data collection of local businesses. Same year, it underwent a massive change. The company had already built one of the best direction systems on the web and was about to stretch their operations nationwide. For revenue, however, Zip2 shifted its focus altogether to a new thing. Instead of selling the service door to door, they started creating a software package that could be sold to newspapers, and in return, newspapers would help Zip2 in building directories for real estate, auto dealers and classifieds. The newspaper industry was very late to realize how the internet was going to affect their businesses and disrupt the print media altogether. The internet was about to give birth to a new form of media which we call digital media today. Soon after investing in Zip2, venture capitalists pushed Elon into the role of Chief Technology Officer and hired Rich Sorkin as the company's CEO. This was all the same old strategy of venture capitalists, pushing original founders out of the game and gaining complete control over the company. Elon did not resist them. They hired new engineers and rewrote some of the old code written by Musk. Elon did not feel threatened or insecure. He was happy about these changes as they made their service more advanced. Under the slogan "We power the press," Zip2 kept selling software packages to newspapers. The New York Times, Knight Ridder, Hearst Corporation and other media properties signed up for its service. Some of these companies even contributed $50 million in funding for Zip2. Elon, however, wasn't really satisfied with it. He wanted to offer interesting services directly to consumers and encourage small businesses to buy a domain and get their business online. But money kept coming in, and that kept Zip2's board of directors on a very conservative path.
I thought, well, we've got to make something that's going to return money very, very quickly. So we thought, well, the media industry would need help converting its content from a print media to electronic. And they clearly had money. If we could find a way to help them move their media to the internet, that would be an obvious way of generating revenue. There was no advertising revenue on the internet at the time. And that was really the basis of Zip2. And we ended up building quite a bit of software for the media industry, primarily the print media industry. So we had as investors and customers Hearst Corporation, Knight Ridder.
In April 1998, 2 years after its formation, Zip2 announced a merger with its main competitor, CitySearch, in a deal valued at around $300 million. As CitySearch hid some information from Zip2's board of directors, Elon still wanted to provide good service to the consumers. He asked the board to take down the current CEO and reinstate him as CEO of Zip2. The board declined, and Elon even lost his chairman title. In early 1999, Microsoft entered the same market. Due to tough competition from the new players, Zip2 started losing money. But all of a sudden, in the same year, the PC maker Compaq offered to pay $307 million in cash for Zip2. The board accepted the offer and threw a huge party. Elon got $22 million out of this deal. He was now officially a millionaire. This boosted his confidence because now he was no longer some nerdy kid. After his experience at Zip2, Elon understood the importance of controlling the power within his own companies. He would use this lesson when he would enter the finance industry and co-found his next venture.
A year ago, Musk sold his software company, Zip2, which enabled newspapers to publish online for $400 million cash.
Receiving cash is cash. I mean, those are just a large number of Ben Franklins. Back in '95, there weren't very many people on the internet. And certainly nobody was making any money at all. Most people thought the internet was going to be a fad.
Chapter 3. PayPal Mafia.
So this is an ATM. What we're going to do is transform the traditional banking industry.
There was a time when all the banking procedures used to take place at the official buildings of the respective banks. Even the simple task of checking your account balance used to require a trip to the bank. That is when some bright minds like Elon Musk and Peter Thiel came up with the idea of online money transfer service. Today, banking is at our fingertips. We can send money, pay bills, book tickets on just one click. From the very beginning, Elon believed that the internet was going to disrupt the financial system. Banks were not doing anything new in the last few decades.
I'm going to put up something that probably looks familiar to most people here. The homepage of PayPal in 2000. Elon was a co-founder. We all know what PayPal is today, but I was hoping you could sort of share with us kind of what your vision was from the beginning.
Well, it's certainly evolved over time. Initially, after selling Zip2, I wanted to do something more on the internet, and it seemed to me that there hadn't been all that much innovation in the financial sector. And given that money is kind of just an entry in a database, and it was low bandwidth, so it didn't require some big infrastructural upgrade to the internet, it seemed it should lend itself to innovation. So I tried to think of what was something compelling that could be done. I thought, well, if we can combine all types of financial services in one, so you have like mortgages, like basically all your entire financial relationship seamlessly integrated together in one place online, that would be cool.
What he's trying to say is that physical money is only a fraction of the money that is available in the world. When you transfer money online, it doesn't require a big infrastructure because banks are not literally going to move your money from one place to another. It is just an entry in the database. They are just going to make an entry of your name and the amount of money you transferred. But back then, the biggest question was security. People were not really comfortable entering their credit card details to buy things online. But Elon was confident about his idea. He invested the majority of the money that he got from the Zip2 deal into X.com. He assembled a team of good engineers. He hired people from various financial institutions to bring the knowledge of finance into the X.com. But launching an online bank in 1999 wasn't easy. Elon and his new company faced tough government regulations and legal roadblocks at every step. Despite all the odds, he managed to secure funding from Sequoia Capital. He gave visionary speeches about internet banking and attracted many good engineers to work with him. X.com secured a banking and a mutual fund license and formed a partnership with Barclays, a British multinational investment bank. To encourage more customers to sign up, X.com gave a $20 cash card just for signing up to use the service and a $10 card for every person they referred. They added a new feature in which users could transfer money using email.
there was a little feature that just seemed like an obvious feature, which was the ability to transfer money from person to another by entering a unique identifier like an email address. That was like just a sort of a little feature, but then whenever we demonstrate the product, people wouldn't get excited about the consolidated financial services, but they would get excited about emailing money. So we started focusing our energy on that, and that really ended up being the big driver of growth.
It proved to be a good viral marketing network. If customers wanted to transfer money to someone using email, and if that person was not on X.com, then X.com would send them an invitation email to sign up. It is a type of marketing where your customers become your salespersons and recommend your service to others. This proved to be a revolutionary marketing strategy at the time. More than 200,000 people signed up for X.com within the first few months. While X.com was gaining good momentum, Peter Thiel, who is also one of the early investors of Facebook, and Max Levchin, a computer scientist, were working on a payment service of their own, Confinity. They also had the email-based payments with their service called PayPal. Between PayPal and X.com began the internet's first ever financial revolution. They competed with each other aggressively to attract more customers. Both companies started losing money and finally Confinity and X.com decided to work together. After the merger, Elon Musk remained the largest shareholder of the company. But this merger did not go well with the employees of PayPal. Elon insisted on continuing service as X.com, but most other employees were in favor of PayPal. PayPal's team, headed by Levchin and Thiel, favored moving towards open source software like Linux, while Musk insisted on using Microsoft's data center service to keep productivity high. This conflict looks very silly to us, but for engineers it was equivalent to a religious war. Back then, many engineers viewed Microsoft as a dated evil empire and Linux as the modern software of the people. They couldn't reach an agreement, so Peter Thiel and Levchin left, and Elon was left alone with the fractured company. The company's website started collapsing every once in a while. They also faced more online fraud. Many employees even questioned Elon's decision-making capability. They later conspired against him and gave a letter of non-confidence to the board of directors. The board replaced Elon Musk and made Peter Thiel the new CEO. He rebranded X.com as PayPal. This was the second time Elon was being pushed out of his own company. But after speaking with Peter Thiel, Elon realized something important. Peter had the vision and leadership to take PayPal to the next level. 2001 was the year when .com bubble crashed and everyone was in a hurry to cash out. The e-commerce company eBay wanted to acquire PayPal. Most of the employees were in favor of selling the company. They wanted to make some real cash out of this deal during the .com bubble. At one point, there were talks of selling PayPal for less than $1 billion, but Elon pushed back. He argued that with over $250 million in yearly revenue, PayPal did not need a quick sale, it was thriving. His persistence paid off. In July 2002, eBay offered $1.5 billion and hence the deal was sealed. I'm about to share something really interesting I discovered while reading the book. Who do you think was the reason behind the success of PayPal? The success of PayPal wasn't just about one person. It was the result of brilliant minds coming together, a team of incredibly talented engineers. In fact, even Javed Karim, co-founder of YouTube, was once a PayPal employee. This legendary group of talented engineers who worked at PayPal later became known as the PayPal Mafia, a nickname given to the former employees and founders of PayPal who went on to build some of the biggest tech companies in the world. Tesla, LinkedIn, SpaceX, Palantir, Yelp, YouTube and Yammer, just to name a few. Most of them became billionaires. All of them became industry changers. It's a proof that when you bring together a team of creative, visionary people, anything is possible. Chapter 4. Life Beyond Earth. The sale of PayPal to eBay in 2002 made Elon Musk a very wealthy man overnight. At just 31 years old, he walked away with over $180 million. Most people would have retired, bought a mansion, taken a long vacation, but Elon wasn't wired that way. Instead, he looked up, literally, and he asked a question that seemed ridiculous at the time. Why haven't we sent anyone to Mars yet? That single question sparked his next mission, one that would push science, space and human ambition to the edge, the birth of SpaceX. With his share from PayPal's sale, Elon could have done anything, but instead of chasing luxury, he chased a dream that sounded impossible to most people, colonizing Mars. He wasn't just thinking about launching satellites or building rockets, he was thinking bigger, much bigger. Elon believed that if humanity wanted to survive long term, we had to become a multiplanetary species. And to do that, space travel had to be reimagined, made cheaper, faster and reusable. In 2002, he founded SpaceX with one goal, to make space accessible to everyone. But turning that dream into reality wasn't easy. Today humanity is dreaming about colonizing Mars. Making humans a multiplanetary species is something that seemed almost impossible 10 years ago. With the privatization of the space industry and the rise of SpaceX, the space industry is showing rapid growth in terms of technology and efficiency. SpaceX has considerably reduced the cost of launching a space mission, but reaching where SpaceX is now was a journey full of ups and downs. Resistance from the government, tough competition from Boeing and the Russians, multiple failed launches, and criticism from legendary astronauts like Neil Armstrong are all part of the success story of SpaceX.
But SpaceX's lack of experience bothers some NASA legends like Apollo astronauts Neil Armstrong and Gene Cernan.
Now is the time to overrule this administration's pledge to mediocrity.
You know, there are American heroes who don't like this idea. Neil Armstrong, Gene Cernan have both testified against commercial spaceflight in the way that you're developing it, and I wonder what you think of that.
I was very sad to see that, because those guys are, those guys are heroes of mine, so it's really tough. I wish they would come and visit and see the hardware that we're doing here.
The space industry had not seen technological advancement in the last few decades, and that had various reasons. NASA has to be dependent on the government. The space exploration goals of the United States are set by the US government, and they have been changing these goals with every new president. For example, under President Bill Clinton, space exploration was not a priority. The budget of NASA decreased during his presidency from $23 billion to $18 billion. Many NASA projects are still lagging behind because they depend on the taxpayers' money. In addition, historically NASA has been constantly dependent on Russians for the launching technology. And this is where Elon Musk comes into play. Elon's journey into the space industry did not begin in a lab. It began with a move to Los Angeles. Why LA? Because it was the heart of America's aerospace innovation. NASA, the US Air Force, Boeing, all had major research and development operations there. Elon knew that if he wanted to learn about rockets, he had to be close to the people building them. Armed with $180 million from the PayPal deal, he didn't just show up with money, he showed up with questions. Big ones. He started meeting with scientists, engineers, and space experts. He asked, listened, and learned obsessively. Because for Elon, this wasn't about dabbling in space, it was the first step in something much bigger, transforming humanity's future beyond Earth. In Los Angeles, an organization called the Mars Society was planning a mission to send a crew of mice into space. The idea was to send them to 1/3 gravity, the same amount of gravity you would have on Mars. Elon donated $100,000 to the Mars Society and became one of its directors. Within a few weeks, Musk brought many bright scientists together, including the prominent American physicist Michael Griffin, who later became the administrator of NASA in 2005. After a few weeks, the Mars Society's mission of sending mice into space did not really interest Elon. He announced his own organization, the Life on Mars Foundation. His organization's first plan was the Mars Oasis. Under this plan, Musk would have to buy rockets and scientists would send a robotic greenhouse into space. They wanted to grow plants on Mars. Buying rockets back in 2001 meant paying a visit to Moscow. In Russia during post-Soviet days, any rich guy could buy a space missile from the open market. Russians were selling rockets at $8 million each. But Elon asked for 2 missiles for $8 million. Russians called up the deal and made fun of Musk. On the way back home from Russia, Elon prepared a spreadsheet and told his colleagues that we can build cheaper rocket ourselves. And this is where he decided to start his own company, which would manufacture cheap rockets and send humans to Mars. Many found Elon's vision for the space industry unrealistic until Elon met Tom Mueller. Tom Mueller is the mind behind Merlin, the first ever engine manufactured by SpaceX.
This area is used for engine components, or the major engine components. So you can see there's a nozzle, or various nozzles at various stages of completion, and then you can also see the copper things, so the chamber liners. You can see the difference between that's a Merlin vacuum configuration, which has got a more spread out nozzle section, and that's the sea level configuration, which has got a sort of short copper nozzle.
In order to make rocket launching cheaper, SpaceX had set 3 goals for itself since the very beginning. First, making rockets cheaper by manufacturing all the products at SpaceX and assembling all the products in-house. SpaceX manufactures 85% of the components it needs for the rockets and the whole rocket launching procedures. For example, if they had bought radios from others, they would be paying $50,000 to $1 lakh each for industrial grade equipment used by other aerospace companies. But instead, SpaceX manufactured these radios and reduced the cost to $5,000 each. This is a dramatic cost reduction. Second, SpaceX also tried to decrease the industrial waste and cost overruns associated with the government contractors. The third and the most important one, making rockets and spacecraft reusable.
If you look at, say, the cost of a Falcon 9 rocket, which is quite a big rocket, it's about 1 million pounds of thrust, and it is the lowest cost rocket in the world, and even so, it's about $50 to $60 million. But the cost of the fuel and oxygen and so forth is only about $200,000. So obviously, if we can reuse the rocket, say 1,000 times, then that would make the capital cost of the rocket per launch only about $50,000.
At the time when the cost of sending a 550-pound payload into space started at $30 million per launch, SpaceX promised Falcon 1 would be able to carry a 1,400-pound payload to space in just $8 million. Falcon 1 is the first product of SpaceX. Initially, SpaceX was supposed to launch it by November 2003, but it was not as easy as Elon thought. Falcon 1 has two engines, Merlin and Kestrel. Merlin is the first stage engine designed to work as a booster to lift Falcon 1 off the ground. Second engine, Kestrel, would be a smaller engine that would power the upper second stage of the rocket and take Falcon 1 into space. These engines use RP-1 and liquid oxygen as their fuel. In the first test of the Merlin engine, it just burned for half a second. To get to space, the Merlin engine needed to burn for at least 180 seconds. Then SpaceX tried to perfect cooling chambers for their engines. On top of all that, the software needed to manage the rocket also became a major burden for them. Finally, in May 2005, SpaceX was about to test their rocket at Vandenberg. Lockheed and Boeing also fly spy satellites for military from there. But these companies did not provide any kind of support to SpaceX. Therefore, SpaceX began searching for a new launch site. So how do you find a launch site for a rocket? You need to put the Mercator projection of the map on the wall and look for the equators. Equators are good for launches because at equator, planet spins faster and gives rockets an additional boost. Along the equators, SpaceX chose Kwajalein Island for its first ever launch site. The US Army had used it for decades as a missile test site. On November 26, 2005, the military gave SpaceX a 6-hour launch window. Everything was ready, but while going through pre-launch checks, engineers noticed a valve on the liquid oxygen tank was open and they were unable to close it. Liquid oxygen was boiling off at the rate of 500 gallons per hour. SpaceX had to abort the mission because they ran out of fuel. They made the second attempt on March 24, 2006. Falcon 1 was carrying a satellite made for the US military. Everything was perfect. Falcon 1 soared up in the sky and in just 25 seconds, a fire broke out. Falcon 1 ended up falling directly on the launch site. Even after this initial failure, many scientists and even the US military were interested in SpaceX. The military wanted to launch smaller and cheaper satellites on short notice. In another case, medical and consumer goods industry was interested in cheap and frequent rides to space to study how a lack of gravity affects their products. All of this would be possible only if sending satellites to space becomes cheaper, and that is exactly what SpaceX was trying to do. They made a third attempt 1 year later on March 15, 2007. Falcon 1 successfully took off. At 3 minutes into the flight, the first stage of the rocket separated as engineers planned. The second engine, Kestrel, kicked in as planned to carry the rocket into orbit. All SpaceX engineers greeted each other and shouted with happiness. Suddenly at the 5th minute, the whole machine broke apart. After just 5 minutes of celebration, SpaceX employees were now on the verge of crying. SpaceX was about to collapse. It was running out of money. After the third failed attempt, they only had money to afford one more attempt or two at max. On 28 September 2008, SpaceX made another attempt. Falcon 1 was not carrying any real cargo this time. Military and other companies doubted SpaceX's capacity to launch anything successfully. But that was the day SpaceX made history. It became the first private company to send an entirely privately made rocket to the space. It took 6 years and the hard work of 500 people to make this miracle of modern science and business happen. However, after this launch, SpaceX had no money left for their missions. 2008 was the year of the Great Recession. Elon's other company, Tesla Motors, was also in a deep financial crisis, but somehow he managed to save both of his companies. He saved SpaceX by securing a contract from NASA worth $1.6 billion for sending 12 flights to the space station in 2008. Even the Great Recession of 2008 could not stop Elon Musk and SpaceX. Since then, SpaceX has achieved milestone after milestone. It is becoming a favorite among everyone who wants to send satellites to space at a cheap cost. United Launch Alliance charges $400 million for one military launch, whereas SpaceX charges about $80 million per launch. It is already 1/5 of the price. Lockheed and Boeing rely on Russian and other foreign suppliers, but SpaceX makes all of its machines from scratch in the United States. SpaceX built Falcon 9, which has 9 Merlin engines. It can carry a payload of 20,000 pounds to space. It can be used to send supplies to the space station, as well as for sending any governmental or private satellites to space at the cost of just $60 million per launch, which is 2 to 3 times less than what competitors of SpaceX like Boeing and Lockheed charge per launch. Then they have Dragon capsule, which they use to supply cargo to the space station. In the Dragon series, SpaceX is working on building the more advanced versions of Dragon capsule, which are specifically designed to transport humans to Mars or the International Space Station. The total cost of the one Dragon capsule is $300 million, which is 10 to 20 times less than what others charge for it. Since 2016, SpaceX has been a profitable company and now it is valued at around $400 billion. However, earning money from the SpaceX is not a priority for Elon Musk. That's the reason why he is not making SpaceX a publicly traded company. He still believes in his vision, which made him start all this, and that vision is sending humans to Mars, making humans a multi-planetary species. On 20th February 2018, when SpaceX launched the Falcon Heavy, they opened the door to all the possibilities of sending humans to Mars.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
All the 4 episodes of the biography of Elon Musk are available to watch. On this channel, I create documentaries on things that make me curious, from history and personal growth to science, tech and lifestyle. Keep watching The Polymath.